I don't know about you, but I really crave mutually assured destruction within my relationships. That's what I'm missing from my life. Alrighty, hello, welcome to this channel. It's all about relationship anarchy. It's called anarcho-relating. What do those terms mean? What is anarchy? What is a relationship? What is anything that is anything? All very valid questions and all questions that I have every intention of diving into, but today we're just gonna start with the first most important thing that we need to understand, which is what is the thing? What is anarchy? What is relationship anarchy? And relationship anarchy is basically, in a nutshell, understanding and applying anarchist theory and practices to our interpersonal relationships. It is anarchism at relationships, relationship anarchy. Now, there are a lot of people that use the words relationship anarchy to mean all kinds of different things about the way that they practice their relationships or the way that they perceive other people to be practicing their relationships. But, you know, that's a thing that I don't have a lot of control over. So anarchy as a whole is about rooting out and deconstructing hierarchy. It is anti-hierarchy, anarchy. And what that sort of means in the way that we practice it within our relationships is fundamentally about seeking out all the different sort of power dynamics and how we can practice that within our relationships in a way that is all about cultivating autonomy, minimizing coercion. Well, the goal is to eliminate coercion, but we do live in a world, we live in a society, and we can't just really opt out of the society that we live in. So how do we practice anarchy within a society and within a world and within relationships that are not built for anarchy, that are not constructed to cultivate anarchy? We live in a world that's very, very hierarchical, and that is just sort of the situation that we have to work within. The difference between anarchy and a number of sort of similar ideologies, or ones that have some overlap, such as Marxism, is that anarchists reject all hierarchy. All hierarchy. I know that Noam Chomsky disagrees with me. That's fine. We will get into that in a later video. But for the purposes of understanding relationship anarchy, I think it's really fundamental to understand that there is no such thing as a justified hierarchy or an ethical hierarchy. All hierarchy should be rooted out and deconstructed for the well-being of the people who are choosing to participate in relationships, in the way that we relate with one another and with ourselves and with, you know, the world around us as a whole. So obviously people have used the word hierarchy, like the mainstream colloquial understanding of hierarchy, sorry, the way we think of anarchy, which is the opposite of hierarchy, is that there are no constraints. It conjures an idea of something that's very hyper-focused on the individual, like chaos, and it's like a free-for-all. There's a lot of like murder and violence, and people are just doing whatever they want, and that is really just not the case. I think that when most people think of the word anarchy, the people that they conjure are a subset of this branch of anarchy that is called anarcho-capitalism, which is widely regarded as not fucking anarchy by every other practicing branch of anarchy, or by, you know, really all other anarchists. Capitalism is diametrically opposed to anarchy. You can't really, they're mutually exclusive, you can't have them at the same time. Capitalism creates hierarchy and can only exist via hierarchy. So it's very bizarre. But the idea, I think, is of these people who are like, well, I don't want the state to be influencing my life, but all the other forms of coercion are acceptable, such as the free market or whatever. And I think you also have that with relationship anarchy, where you have people who are saying that they don't want to abide by the typical social conventions, but they also don't want to do the work of deconstructing all of the hierarchies within their interpersonal relationships so long as they serve them. Was that a very judgmental hot take? Yes, it was. There is a fundamental difference between liberalism, libertarianism, in the way that we think of it today within these sort of political structures, and anarchy in the way that we think of that today within these political structures that we live in. So relationship anarchy is all about cultivating autonomy within individuals. Autonomy is a word, is another one of those words. There's so many of these words that have so many different meanings to so many different people, and there's not really like a consensus on what the word autonomy means. But what I mean by the word autonomy, when I say that it's about cultivating autonomy, it is about cultivating people who are capable of self-determining the best outcome for themselves, like what is in their best interest, not just like in this particular moment, but as a whole, like from a holistic, zoomed out sort of bird's eye perspective. And the purpose of doing that, like, or the understanding that I'm sort of approaching this with, is that hierarchy creates coercion. And coercion is coercive. It makes people do things that they don't necessarily want to do, or that may not be in their best interest. And I know that I've already like pissed some people off by saying that you should act in your own best interest, and that sounds, again, very individualistic, very, very libertarian, very do whatever you want, free for all, but I promise you that's not the situation. I think the cool thing about anarchy, the one cool thing about anarchy, is that there is this sort of understanding that the individual and the collective are interlinked in a way that you cannot separate. We exist in like this feedback loop of individual and of community. One cannot exist without the other. We cannot thrive in solitude. And we also cannot thrive as like a hive mind. In order to have autonomy, we need to be cultivating autonomy in everyone around us at the same time. Autonomy is cultivated through trust and through safety, because it's only when you feel like you have multiple options that are safe and that are good and that are welcome that you can then make a choice out of those options. If there's a coercive force and a coercive element pressuring you to make a certain choice or act in a specific way, your autonomy is being limited. Does eliminating coercion mean that your actions have no consequences? Absolutely not. That's not at all what it means, but it is a thing that people think about. And the purpose, of course, of cultivating autonomy within your relationships is so that you can show up to them more authentically, so that everyone involved can show up more authentically, to be able to participate and show up in relationships in the way that you want to, and to have the people that you're relating with show up for you in that same way, authentically, with desire. And that seems very utopian, because we are sort of situated in a world where relationships come with a certain amount of expectation and a certain amount of responsibility and a certain amount of obligation, where showing up to relationships in a way that is only ever the way that you want kind of triggers this feeling of unsafe, of like fear almost. We have this idea within society and within the way that we relate with one another that safety and freedom are part of like a zero-sum game pie chart situation, that you exchange freedom in return for security, or vice versa, that you exchange security in return for freedom. And that just isn't the case. It is the case in a lot of scenarios, like that is valid, but it doesn't need to be this way. We've constructed all of these ways of relating that are just really like not that much fun. And even if they are fun, like they can be funner and better. And I really, I want that for you. I want that for me. That's why I'm making this channel, is because I want to be able to talk about these things with people without having to subject them to a like 19-hour dissertation of me talking about all the things. So instead, I'm going to document them on this YouTube channel. And then when someone is talking to me and they're like, what the hell are you talking about? I can be like, go look at this YouTube channel I made. There are all of these like fascinating conversations that I want to be a part of, and arguments that are so worthwhile. And it's so hard when every time you enter a space, you have to sort of start from scratch, because there's not a lot of resources that you can point to where you're like, this is the thing that I'm talking about. And then once you like consume that, we will be sort of on the same page and we can go talk about all the interesting things. But instead we have to talk about what the word hierarchy means for the next 19 years. And so that's the approach that I'm going to be taking with this channel, and it is the approach that I take within my own interpersonal relationships, is no hierarchy at all, ever, is the goal, is the intention. Is it possible? That's not the point. The point isn't for it to be possible. The point is to be constantly always working towards it, always trying to devise the best path to get to that no hierarchy situation. However, like, and I think this is like an important thing to understand about anarchism as well, is that there is no end state. At no point are we going to be like, okay, yes, we did it. We've achieved anarchy. Well done. Let's go have a drink or whatever. Like that's not how it works. There will always be new hierarchies that will pop up, and that will always be we will always need to be deconstructing. And so anarchy is a practice. It is a continual movement. It is not rigid or focused on an outcome, but it is the way of life. It's the philosophy through which we choose to do things for the betterment of ourselves and everyone around us, is the point. Anarchy is good for your health. So because there are so many sort of misconceptions about what anarchy is, what the goal is, how to practice it, whether or not you can be a relationship anarchist who does not know anything about anarchy, does not care about anarchism as an ideology, as a philosophy, is not interested in applying those principles. Because of that, I've been trying to make fetch happen a little bit with Anarcho Relating, which is the name of this YouTube channel. My goal is to recenter the anarchy in relationship anarchy. The Anarcho Relating is the thing that I've been trying to practice, and that I think is really just fucking the tits. I can't say the tits. So with Anarcho Relating, I've been kind of reimagining relationship anarchy as like closer to a branch off of anarchism rather than a branch off of ethical non-monogamy or polyamory as an approach to relationships. I think that people have much more mutually beneficial relationships if they are able to bring those anarchist principles to the way that they practice relationship anarchy, rather than a lot of the time sort of clinging to amatonormative, polynormative, mononormative ideas of how relationships are supposed to function and what is valuable within relationships and which relationships are valuable and all of that jazz. And if I just said a bunch of words that you've never heard before, that's totally fine. I will do a glossary at some point. I'm going to be talking about all of these things in separate videos, but hopefully if you've landed here, you're interested in relationship anarchy and or Anarcho Relating and or anarchism and or any number of things, because really this can apply to everything. And if you are curious, stick around, there are more videos. And if you've watched this video and you're like, that's not what I think relationship anarchy is, who are you to say what these words mean? Totally fair enough. As it turns out, I've made a whole video about that, and it's over here. It's actually already completed, and you can click on it. You cannot sit on it. Yeah, maybe you can. I don't know what your life is like. You can click here and watch that, and then decide for yourself whether or not I'm someone that's worth listening to, or whether these ideas are worth considering for your own relationships or life. But yeah, thank you for listening, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye! I'm allowed to change my mind. I'm allowed to make update videos, but this is what I'm doing today, and I hope that you join me and that you enjoy joining me, because I will enjoy having you here paying attention to me.